ಬಂದಿದೆ ಬಂದಿದೆ ಹಿರಿಯರ ವಾಣಿ, ಹಿರಿಯರೇ ಇತರ ರಾಜ ರಾಣಿ, ಹತ್ತೋಣ ನಾವು ಅವರ ನೆನಪಿನ ದೋಣಿ, ಕೇಳುತ್ತಾ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡೋಣ ಹಿರಿಯರ ವಾಣಿ, ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡೋಣ ಹಿರಿಯರ ವಾಣಿ, ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಖುಷಿ ಪಡೋಣ ಹಿರಿಯರ ವಾಣಿ. ಇದು ಹಿರಿಯರ ಕತೆ ಹಿರಿಯರ ಜೊತೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹಿರಿಯರ ವಾಣಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಕೇಳ್ತಾನೆ ಇರಿ, ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿರಿ. Hello listeners, this is your RJ Chandana and I welcome you all to Anubhav, a joint project of National Institute of Social Defense, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India and Media for Community Foundation, implemented by Nightingales Medical Trust. Project conceived by Dr. R. Sridhar, Project Investigator Alok Verma, Coordinators Pooja Murada, Sai Sudha and Kaushalya. Government of India has initiated an elderline toll-free number 14567. Elders or anyone on behalf of elders can call between morning 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for any questions, queries and support to elderly.
I would like you to meet Professor Chudamani-Nandagopal, an art crusader. She is a renowned Bharatanatyam dancer who became an art historian and an authority on temple architecture. Chudamani is a UNESCO Fellow of International Repute with a doctorate in history and archaeology. Presently, she is the Tagore National Senior Fellow at National Museum, Delhi. She has authored 24 books in the areas of art history and Indian culture. As an academician, she set up Art History Department at the Chitrakala Parishad, served as academic head of IGNCA Southern Regional Center, Bangalore, set up a Department of Cultural Studies at Manipal University and Jain University. She has guided 20 PhD scholars and 20 MPhil candidates. Her recent publication in Ritual Enactment in Temple Tradition, Temple Chariots, to name a few of her publications. In fact, her biodata runs into reels. I had to condense it. Now over to you, Dr. Chudamani. Please come and give us a insight into your knowledge.
Yes, I just want to give a little more information, adding to Usha's introduction. One of the important, research documentation I undertook recently, about 4 years back. It was on Ramappa Temple in Warangal district, near, it is in the Palampet village, near Ramappa Lake. And this is a great Kakatiya. The dynasty which was ruling, Kakatiya dynasty, has established or set up this temple, which has a foundation inscription giving the date as 1213 Common Era. And I also wrote an exclusive book on Ramappa Temple, the crest jewel of Kakatiya art and architecture. Most of you know that Ramappa Temple got its recognition as UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is 39th site of Indian cultural heritage. South India had 4 sites, UNESCO World Heritage Sites. We have, more than 10,000 sites in South India, but 4 were recognized. That was 2 from Tamil Nadu and 2 from Karnataka. None from Andhra, that is when it was Andhra. None from Telangana, none from Kerala. So the 2 important from Karnataka was Pattadakal group of temples and Hampi. In Tamil Nadu, it is Brihadeshwara temple and Mahabalipuram group of temples. So this is, it's almost 37 years ago. All these 4 sites were recognized by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites. But we had to wait almost 37 years to get one more site, that is Ramappa Temple, we got. And I worked extensively for this site with my team of all, doctorates and who are my research associates, good photographer. And this work was given to me by Telangana Department of Heritage and Archaeological Survey of India and Kakatiya Heritage Trust. So I was also part of writing dossier, which was submitted to UNESCO. Twice it was already submitted, but it was rejected for wanting proper analysis, cultural analysis. So when I intervened, I worked on both the tangible and intangible cultural heritage for which Ramappa should be recognized. So it was my, I can say that, this analysis and the book which you are seeing here, that is one picture what you are seeing on this screen is Ramappa Temple entrance. The other one picture is the Ramappa Temple, that is the book which I wrote. And this was sent to all the countries which participated in the discussion and recommendation for UNESCO heritage site. So they were well aware of the situation and the need to be recommended because of this book. So it was fortunately, we were on 25th July. I was also, from virtually, I was also looking at, how the deliberation is going on. And the moment came, they declared, inscribed Ramappa Temple as 39th World Heritage Site of India. So this was, I think, one of my, for such a long time I have served in the field of Indian art and culture, cultural heritage, archaeology, and it has paid dividends, rich dividends, by getting this UNESCO World Heritage Site. Friends, I felt like, sharing with you all this particular, achievement of India, getting this site in 2021, July. I may be for some time little academic, so that laid the foundation, and then we see that how Indian temple architecture is such a great field of study, field of research, and it is like any number of people do the research, it's still wanting people to come and do the research. I'm talking about the entire Indian temple architecture. And that too, the South Indian temple architecture demands, proper understanding and analysis, because it is symbolism, ingrained within its development. So what we are understanding here is symbolism of temple form. When you look at the temple, it has a form, it has an architectural form. What does it convey to us? It is like thought process integrated with space. There is a thought process which has gone into it for centuries, our cultural ethos, and it integrates into a particular space. And the temple architecture, its form originates from the Garbha, that is Garbhagriha, which we call it as the sanctum. And Garbhagriha is compared with a womb. Most of you know that, it is known as, it is always kept dark. Today, electric light has been, focused on the deity, and the Garbhagriha is lit. But originally, traditionally, it is dark because it signifies the womb of mother. So it is a womb from which all life emanates. Darkness of the Garbhagriha, what does it convey? The philosophical, it conveys the paradoxes, like from the unknown to the known. When you enter, everything is unknown to you. But when you enter into the space, you start knowing everything. From elaboration to structural simplicity. When you come from the entrance to Garbhagriha, you will be passing through successive, many, enclosures, many units of the temple. And they are all, beautifully, all sculpturally enriched. And you see that, many stories, so many things are involved into making of that space interesting to the people. So that is what you see, the elaboration. And when you come to Garbhagriha, it is so simple. So it is only 3 walls, and the entrance is is what you see so it is structural simplicity. And from multiplicity, what you do there, to unity. Where you unite yourself, it is to the principal deity, which is Prana Pratishtha. Pratishtha Vidhi. It is an elaborate Vidhi. It's a ritual. Through the tree, the deity, consecrate. So you meet that deity and you unite yourself. So successive enclosures in temple architecture lead to the heightened sense of focus in suggestive introspection. That is what I meant. I have already mentioned to you. All the introspection finally focuses in that particular sequential process of sacrificing the world around to become one with the divine power installed in the Garbhagriha. You go to one enclosure, you enter into second, third, fourth, fifth, and finally you are living all those things and reaching the divine power that is installed in the Garbhagriha. What parameters govern the temple architecture? What are the things, which is so important, without which the temple, you cannot call it as temple architecture. You cannot call it as temple. So it is architectural form and space in the evolution and development of early Dravida architecture. Because we are talking about the South Indian architecture. So we call all South Indian architecture as Dravida architecture. Early Dravida and later Dravida. There are the 2. Early Dravida is before, say, 13th or even 10th century. Later Dravida is from 14th century onwards. So we have 2, categories there: early Dravida and later Dravida architecture. So 4 important things, that is religious thought. One has to have the religious thinking, the stream for which, the temple is built. Otherwise, you don't need the temple at all. So there is the religious thought and speculation, philosophy, everything goes there. Then water bodies, which is very much important because all rituals in the temple need water. So you have to have water bodies. Then rituals. Why the temple is built? Is it just to sit and meditate? No, it is the rituals which make you to involve. What the meaning of rite? Rite is like a process, entering into a process. When you enter into that process, finally you come to that summit. So that is what you mean the rituals. Many people feel that, all these rituals are useless, why we should spend and all that. No. It's not like that. Our culture has great sense of creating all these rituals. If we can't do it, don't at least, reject it or be negative about it. It has great significance. And then the perception of sacred space, the understanding, the very understanding of sacred space, that is what is the temple all about. So the temple architecture is centripetal force for every activity. Whatever the activity happens around us, it is like a central point where all the activities, they come. It is centrifugal force for all human activity. From center, it moves outside also. So you have centrifugal and centripetal continuous activities going on. It is the single strength to operate ritual system. It is the only place which started with the ritual system. Later, rituals are used in the domestic rituals and community rituals. All things happened later, but it started with in the temple system. Space of tangible and intangible heritage. Tangible heritage is the thing which you can see, touch, experience by touching it, physically existing. Intangible is something which is not physically existing, without which this physical structure has no meaning. For example, you have the rituals, you have the songs, you have the stories. They are intangible heritage. They come in the form of oral tradition. May not be the written sources at all. They are oral tradition. So that is what we mean by it is a space which many things happen without writing or anything. Then enlivened space, functional, philosophical in nature. So much of philosophy involved into the temple architecture. Volumes and volumes of texts have been written from 4th century to till date. And we, the researchers, continuously working on that. I don't know how architecture, concept itself, elements, think space. When it is chosen, while choosing the site also, there are so many, vidhis and so many finally, it manifests as a sacred space. It becomes a sacred space. Rituals govern the mind, body, and intent of the performer in a performative space. This sacred space will face. And in that performative space, all this happens. Who is the performer? It may be a priest, it may be Mahajana, it may be a patron, it may be an ordinary devotee. Is the performer what's happening there? Yes. Now this is what you see the Garuda Chayana. It is in the form of a Garuda, an eagle, you can say. But Garuda has a better understanding than the eagle. Eagle is a common word. So let us use the word Garuda only. And you see shapes a different size of the bricks to make it as an altar. So it is a Yagnavedi. Yagnavedi because when you look at the architecture and its space, it has got so many geometrical shapes there. So the temple originated from the Yagnavedi. The temple, very temple Garbhagriha originates from the Yagnavedi. The Pancha Tattva, that is Pancha Mahabhuta, that is Akasha, Bhumi, Jala, Vayu, and these things, all the earth, all the 5 energy, what we call it as Pancha Mahabhuta or Pancha Tattva, are involved into Prastara. That when you observe that altar, you will have 5 layers. So each layer is one tattva. So finally, the Garuda China has got 5 layers, and the foundation of the Garbhagriha emerges from this, tattva. The measurement of the entire China correlates with the figure of man and the Yajamana Kailasa. This Prastara portion is the foundation which talks about the Bhutattva of the temple architecture, Bhumi. The middle portion dedicated to Shiva Bhaktas. That is why when you see the temple architecture on the walls, you will see the Ganas, Gandharvas, Kinnaras. So the patrons are depicted on only the walls. And many stories are depicted, many forms of gods are shown there. So it is the wall portion of the temple architecture. And the top portion is only dedicated to Shiva. That is the principal deity. That is Shikhara. The Shikhara, when Shiva enters into speculative mood, he dances, it becomes cosmic dance of Shiva. And the Garbhagriha, which has got the Shikhara, is the summit, what we call it as Meru, what we call it as Kalash of that, or we call it as, in the technical term, it is known as Vimana. Vimana is the Shikhara which is on the Garbhagriha. The concept is the god has descended from that Vimana, from the heaven, and he has been consecrated in the Garbhagriha. That is his abode. That is the concept of Garbhagriha. Now, Garbhagriha and Shikhara, I just correlated with this slide. It's a focal point axially both in vertical and horizontal plane. Garbhagriha rising to Shikhara is the metaphorical identity for a sacred space. Treatment of Shikhara is a challenging point for architect. We'll see that in next slides. Nandi is very important for Kailasa because one has to pass through Nandi before you enter into Kailasa. That is why you find the Vrishabha or the gigantic Nandi in front of the temple architecture. So also in temple architecture, you have the Nandi Mantapa. Most of the time it is Nandi Mantapa. Nandi Mantapa with a gigantic bull sculpture. You can see here in Kanchipuram 1 and in the Pattadakal also there is a Nandi Mantapa. So reference of the concept of Kailasa, whether any reference in texts. I should thank Prasad, Shankar Prasad's father-in-law of Usha, because they donated me great volumes and books which were used by scientist Ramaswamy. And those books, in that group, I did not have this volume, Brihat Samhita. Brihat Samhita was there, and it actually enriched my research studies because I am writing a book on symbolism of sacred space in early Dravida architecture. For that, I was looking for Brihat Samhita, and it came to my hand, Brihat Samhita. So that is why I am thankful to the whole family. Thank you, Prasad and Usha, for that. So here in Brihat Samhita, there is a mention of 24 types of temples. And among them, Meru, Mandara, and the third is Kailasa. It's not that, these people had some Puranic thing and, they called it as Kailasa. No, it's scientific. Brihat Samhita is a scientific text for all astronomical understanding of ancient India. Brihat Samhita is the best work of Varahamihira of 7th century. So there we see the concept of Kailasa. He talks about Kailasa, which is next to Meru and Mandara. So here, the Garbhagriha is the focal point, and the form of the superstructure above the Garbhagriha represents that mountain. That is what we mean by Shikhara. It is a mountain, it's a summit. So the temple of Kanchipuram, Kailasanatha temple Kanchipuram, what I'm coming to that, is representation of Kailasa on the earth. So the early Dravidian Shaiva architecture, I started working on this, exploring this. Kanchipuram, study has been taken place, no doubt. Even the many, British archaeologists, they all worked on that, but they never connected with the texts. They never connected with the inscription and the existing form of the temple. They never connected the symbolism of the temple and understanding of the temple. It's only Indian can do. So I felt that these are my questions. I must go with this. And to my surprise, I got great sources in the form of inscription. So 3 great monuments have been chosen for my study. They are Rajasameshwara Graha or the Virupaksha temple, Pattadakal, Kailasa temple, rock cut architecture, Ellora. See, all these 3 were built between 723 to 772. That is the period. All these 3 temples were built, and all these 3 had the concept of Kailasa, and they created Kailasa on the earth. Now, this is the plan. What is to study the temple is knowing the ground plan. Archaeological Survey of India has made these ground plans, and the researchers have to correlate this with the existing form. We go to the place with the ground plan in our hand and try to understand from all the perspectives of the units. As I said, water resources is so important. You have the Pushkarani in Kailasanatha temple and water sources in the Ellora. Because it's a cave temple, you have the underground water sources. And for Pattadakal, at the time of my documentation, the Ghataprabha river was dried. Otherwise, it is full, flowing river. And for every temple, Sthala Vriksha or a sacred tree is required. So here you have the Bilva Patra for the Shiva. And if it is Vaishnava, it should be Shami tree. Shami tree should be around somewhere. And of course, Tulasi is so important, is sacred for all the Vaishnava understanding. So here you see the Sthala Vriksha. It is a must for the temple. And as I said, sculptures having the theme, they can't just put any sculpture anywhere. There is a theme, they have to follow the theme, and they have to follow the agamas, the Puranas, and the local understanding of the time. So we call it as local tradition. They also have to give importance to that. And these are some of the sculptures from Kailasanatha, Kanchipuram. You have the Mahishamardhini and Bhairava and the Devis, going in a procession to see Shiva coming as a Bhairava in various forms. These are sculptures from Pattadakal. You find the Ravana shaking the Kailasa. It's one of the main subject for Ellora. If you have visited the Ellora temple, a huge niche is created for that. And the Gandharvas, the Devadasis, and Mahishamardhini, all these are found on the wall and entrance of the temple. And this is the Bhairava, the huge size Bhairava, spreading all his hands. And in one of his hands, he's cajoling Parvati also. She is so scared, seated there. And he is, with so many, attributes, weapons. He has come for certain purpose. That form was created. And after that, that form disappears. That is how you find several forms of Shiva and several forms of Vishnu, also Shakti. And finally, all temples have the cosmic dance of Shiva. That is from Kanchipuram, and this is from Ellora, and that is from Pattadakal. You can enjoy seeing them because my first research and doctorate was on dance sculptures. So if I start talking about it, you can't stop me. So I just allow you to enjoy these dance sculptures. That is cosmic dance of Shiva, the Nataraja, the beautiful form of Shiva. Now, Vaikuntha, also I said, these are the two concepts govern the temple architecture, early Dravida temple architecture. One was Kailasa. You have seen how Kailasa is related. The second one is Vaikuntha. So in Kanchipuram is so important for all our studies. That is why, all art historians first go to Kanchipuram, work there, and come to other parts because the concepts originate there. Because the agamas, the Shaiva agamas, Vaishnava agamas were first properly understood, studied there. The Appar, the Alvars, the Nayanmars, they all contributed at that time. So you have Vaikuntha Perumal temple. So first time the word Vaikuntha is used there. So the sacred space Kailasa as well as Vaikuntha, both are found in Kanchi. And this is how they thought about it. They understood about Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha has got 3 stories, 3 levels. That is Vishnu standing posture, Vishnu reclining posture, and Vishnu seated posture with Lakshmi. He is presented as a family person, having Lakshmi with him always. Even in his form of Narasimha, he will have Lakshmi Narasimha. One of my friend, a foreigner, when I took her to Lakshmi Narasimha temple, she was wondering, looking around and said, I explained her about the form of Narasimha and all that. Her eyes was only on Lakshmi. Then she said, I don't know how this lady is tolerating this man. That was her reaction. So 3 forms you find. And in Srirangam, you see that on Sriranga-Pattana, you find the reclining Vishnu. That is the form. All these were created in Vaikuntha Perumal temple. So that is why conceptually, this is one of the very, very early Dravida architecture. And later we find this becomes very common. You have all the themes related to Shiva. You have all the themes related to Vishnu. You have themes related to Shakti or the female energy, and they are created separately. But in early Dravida architecture, you find all of them in the emerging state. Now, ritual space and architectural texts. I was telling you that, India is rich with architectural texts. No other country can say that we have ancient texts on architecture. Very few texts in Greek and Chinese, very few of them, but not the way, what we have in India. So ritual space and structure, see how beautifully the structure is correlated with ritual understanding, like Brihat Samhita, Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Manasara, Mayamata, Samarangana Sutradhara, Kashyapa Shilpa, and Shilparatna. These are all the texts. Once, I was supposed to give a lecture only on the texts, architecture and Shilpa, Shastra. I was amazed to see that the ancient one, till 17th century, I got more than 70 texts. And analyzing 70 texts is not a joke. It's so difficult. Whole life of mine will go into that. So this is the Kailasapuram Kailasanatha temple, which is must study, analysis started with this in the concept of Kailasa. And the whole, when you start from here and the basement, if you start looking at and going around the temple, you start from the entrance door, then go around the temple, and there is 6 inches slab will be there, and it goes continuously. On that there is inscription. That inscription is in Grantha Lipi. Of course, we get information from Epigraphia Indica and other texts, published by Epigraphy department. There I found the last 3 lines of that mentioned as Kailasa. He says, Rajasimheshwara, while constructing this temple, mentions this my creation will steal the grandeur of Kailasa of Shiva. That means to say, the architect and the patron, Rajasimha, they visualized the entire Kailasa and brought Kailasa down to earth. So what we think usually the people go for temple, the concept of Divya Darshana. See, these are all the terminology and concepts. I don't know, it was God's grace on me. I'm contributing to the world of architecture. Otherwise, the scholars will never correlate the rituals, the concepts, our own concepts, and architecture. They look at it only as a structure, structural development, structural movement, structural progression. That is the way the Westerners look at Indian temple architecture, but not Indians. We understand why these temples were built. So the concept of Divya Darshana, you are going to the temple, you want to see the rituals, you want to be part of the utsavas. Why you have all those things? Because you are longing for that Divya Darshana of the God. So you can see here the 3 successive enclosures when you pass. You have 3 shikaras. And the last one is on the Garbhagriha. This is from Tanjore, Brihadeshwara temple, Tanjore. In medieval architecture, that after 10th century, the material for architecture is changed. We call them as Kalyana Chalukyas, and they are the source for Hoysala, Kakatiya, Sevunas, Santaras, Kalachuris, other dynasties. They are all sourced from Kalyana Chalukyas from Karnataka. So this particular style of architecture is known as Vesara. So we have 3 styles of architecture: Dravida, Vesara, Nagara. Nagara is North Indian type of architecture, where you find the conical, number of towers which are, put together, and you can just think of either, the Puri temples, Jagannath, Puri, or Khajuraho temples. They are all the North Indian temples, and this is Vesara. It is neither this nor that, but a beautiful amalgamation of various forms. This is from Amruteshwara temple, Amrutapuram. It's a Hoysala temple architecture. It's only the Bhitti, one wall portion is given here. The architecture of such nature is the signature style of the architects of class. They are great contributors in the field of architecture then and now. So this is from the Ramappa. Ramappa, it's the ceiling. You just see the spectacular vision of the architect and the people who lived at that time. Now, how much they must have enjoyed while making this particular type of architecture. So art and architecture. Art means here we mean sculpture, painting, these are art, and architecture. They are the core expression of Indian culture. Whenever people visit India, they would like to see these monuments. They would like to go and see what they are. They say that we will go to Belur first. We go to Halebid. We go to Tanjore. We go to Madurai. Why? Because they want to see that expression of culture, Indian culture. And architecture addresses functional needs. Architecture is not a decorative form. It is a functional form. It creates everything. So both address art and architecture, different needs of human beings. Both provide insightful experiences. Both architect and artist passionately cherish art. They will be working together. A Sthapati, a Shilpi. They are working together. They create such great wonders what we have temple architecture in India. So when you say art, it means sculpture, dance, music, painting, alankarana, decorating the god is also an art. Flower making is also an art, which is offered to God. There are 64 types of art in Indian texts. We see that from 4th century. 64 types of art has been identified. So singing for the god at various rituals is found in our temple process or procedure. So this is like Shaiva saints, the great Nayanmars, Appar. They all sang for what? For Haradarshana, and that too Shiva in dancing form. That's the climax of Shiva's Anugraha in that concept. Songs of Alvars and Haridasas, they also sing, chant for Divya Darshana. Why they are doing all this in temple? To have that kind of Divya Darshana. It involves into the ritual, daily rituals. It is known as Nitya, Paksha, Masa, Samvatsara. All kinds of rituals are there. I documented the entire ritual system from Melukote. So 1 year, morning and evening, I used to be in Melukote. And there is a huge book on Melukote rituals I worked on. And this was the first time somebody has made it academic to study what is the importance of rituals. So I have given the structure and understanding, particularly for the foreign scholars. It is a great guide for them. Otherwise, they will not understand this ritual significance so well. So early morning, there will be a sacred cow, which is treated as sacred. It is brought before the Garbhagriha of the temple in Melukote and in all Vaishnava temples where the rituals are performed. And this is Melukote Sri Chelvanarayana Swami. There is Mula Murti, that is what you find here, one. And Utsavamurti, the processional image. When they want to take in procession, they can't take the stone sculpture. It's huge. So they decorate beautifully and they place it there. See how Cheluvanarayana, the name itself is Cheluva. He looks like this in Melkote. And the other one is processional deity. He is known as Shalva Pille. He has been carried in all processions. Temple Utsavas, festivals, Rathotsavas are so significant. Why people come in such a great number? It is to have that Divya Darshana, at least once a year in their lifetime. So this is what is the Vairamudi Utsava, where you have that huge diamond crown is placed on the processional deity, and it has been around from to next morning around 30. After 2:30, it will be deposited in the Mandya treasury. It will go in the security van. And the Pallaki Utsava is also, you find here in the Virupaksha temple, Hampi. And the Swamiji is Vidyaranya Swamiji. And the crown he is wearing is donated by Mummadi Krishnaraja Vodayar. So my book on temple jewelry is on 40 temples I documented and researched the donations, the meaning of donations, why they donate, all those things in the book. So this is one such Utsava. Devis are very important in Utsavas. Sri Devi and Bhudevi in Melkote is taken out on Vihara. They also want always in the temple, precinct. They want to go out of the temple, spend their time near Kalyani, and that is known as Devi Vihara. And these are the offerings. Both Devis are placed there, and they are given all kinds of, whatever it is possible from their side. As parents, they become the priests. They will be waiting for the daughters to come. And offerings are made. Arayar Seve done. Rathotsava is so important in South Indian temples. All of you must have experienced that. And this is one example in Kumbakonam Sarangapani temple. The entire temple is in the form of Ratha. So the concept is God has come from Vaikuntha to give Divya Darshana and settle there. So he becomes Sarangapani. So beautiful concepts, they have understood. They are into that kind of, Leela, understanding those things. You have the stone chariot at Hampi. It's a spectacular vision when you go to Vithala temple. So this was the, earlier, it was the Garuda, shrine in the form of Ratha, stone chariot. And this is where you see the Sarangapani temple. From the temple, the god is taken outside and placed in the chariot, and chariot is drawn in the night. And it's a great experience to be part of such things. And this is Rathotsava from Udupi. On one day, they draw 5 chariots. It's a real spectacular vision. And Divya Darshana of Udupi Krishna coming out and giving his darshana to people. Because Udupi temple is a small temple, how many people can go inside? So he comes out and he gives Divya Darshana to people. And to create this kind of, ritual process and other things are great ritual utensils. We see that in the temple, 5 types of the utensils are kept, silver or sometimes copper, depending on the riches of the temple. And then the water is distributed into all these 5 for different rituals. So these are all the donations given by the Mysore Wadayars. They are all beautifully, it is the gold vessels, gold ritual utensils. Some of them are from Nanjanagudu. Nanjanagudu Srikanteshwara temple has wonderful collection which were donated by the Wadayars of Mysore, including Tipu Sultan. These are jewels which are in collection of the temples. On the Utsavas, the gods are decorated with these jewels. That is why people go, some of them, to see what kind of jewels adorn the god. So the one, what you see here, the first one is Nakshatramala. You find the Ashtottara of Devi in each one of those idealized flower form motif, and it is donated by Krishna Rajavadiyar. Also, you have so many other things, and particularly the Melkote temple, Nanjanagudu temple, Chamarajanagar temple, and Sringeri. They are all in pristine position, beautifully, properly documented and kept safe. I should thank the Karnataka priests and the trusts who are taking such care of all these precious things. Whereas in places like Tirupati, which were donated by Krishnadevaraya and the Wadayars and all, them are misplaced, are not found. But fortunately, Karnataka has got, I learned in Madurai Meenakshi, Robert Clive has donated one ruby necklace to Madurai Meenakshi. I don't know whether it is still there or not. Kind of is not there in Karnataka temples. Music is part of rituals and is echo of the temple, because out of 16 upacharas, Shodashopachara puja, Sangita seva is one, Nritya seva is one, Veda seva is one. All 4 Vedas will be chanted. So like that, there are 16 kinds of sevas, and music is always there. And Nritya seva, as Nitya Puja Ramapand, we just thought while documenting, it has got huge dancing platform. So Nritya Seva was so important in Rudreshwara temple. And floral offerings, you have seen that, artistically the flowers are created. It's not just, put the flowers. The way they offer the flowers, the garlands that are made, beautifully decorated. You find, this is from, I think, Houston. Devi is decorated there also. In Houston also you find this kind of decoration for Devi. In sculpture, you have the Saraswati will be like this in Gangaikonda Cholapuram. And floral offerings, if you just go into, I think, Sriranga temple, it's closer to Garbhagriha when you pass through enclosures, and they will be having, such beautifully, they are sitting and tying the flowers, and you can feel the aroma of that from such a distance, and they want to offer this to God. So this is floral offerings, and all these things happen for what? Longing for Divya Darshana. And that is none than Ramanujacharya. This is the form of one of the Utsavas, experience with the festivals of the South Indian temples. So this is what the uniqueness of Indian, particularly South Indian temple architecture.